Welcome to this explainer on the breadcrumb trail, tracking the Courier. We're going to dive right into the painstakingly long, decade-spanning intelligence operation that finally located the world's most wanted man. We'll be looking really closely at the tiny, almost invisible breadcrumbs that brought a massive global manhunt to its end. It is a crazy story about how immense patience and cutting through an absolute mountain of data noise can lead to incredible breakthroughs. Let's get into it.
So picture this. It's November 2004, just 4 days before a major U.S. presidential election between George Bush and John Kerry. The trail for Osama bin Laden has gone completely cold. Nothing. Zilch. And yet suddenly, a brand new videotape pops up on Al Jazeera. The target looks perfectly healthy and he's directly claiming responsibility for the 9/11 attacks. He's doing it in this really bold manner, essentially broadcasting to the world that he feels entirely safe. Meanwhile, the CIA task force back in Virginia, they had absolutely zero active leads. It was an incredibly frustrating and incredibly high-stakes situation.
Now, to understand how they hit that dead end in 2004, we actually have to rewind to a massive missed opportunity back in late 2001. Deep in the cave complexes of Tora Bora, U.S. forces and local Afghan fighters launched these massive heavy airstrikes. They genuinely believed they had their target cornered. But they missed him. By the time the dust settled, the primary target had slipped away, and they only managed to capture 20 fighters. At the time, it felt like a total failure.
Well, as it turns out, one of those seemingly unimportant, low-level captives from Tora Bora was a man named Mohammed al-Qahtani. He was a complete unknown to the CIA at that moment. During his initial questioning, he entirely denied having any major affiliations. In fact, he claimed he was simply in Afghanistan to, hunt falcons.
But the CIA obviously didn't just take his word for it. They ran his fingerprints, and suddenly some major dots started connecting. Just weeks before 9/11, al-Qahtani had actually tried to enter the U.S. at Orlando International Airport, but a customs agent rejected his entry. He had a one-way ticket and $2,800 in cash. And it gets crazier. Investigators found that on that exact same day, an abandoned rental car linked to Mohammed Atta, who was the hijacker that flew into the North Tower, was sitting right there in the airport parking lot. Someone even made a call from a payphone there to an al-Qaeda number. The CIA deduced pretty quickly that al-Qahtani wasn't a falcon hunter at all. He was likely meant to be a hijacker on United Flight 93.
Breaking Qahtani's cover triggered a huge chain reaction. Once they confronted him with the evidence, he finally admitted his ties. And that admission directly led to the capture of Abu Zubaydah in March 2002, a guy who facilitated logistics for the group. Zubaydah then flipped and gave up information that led straight to the capture of the 9/11 mastermind himself, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, or KSM, just a year after that.
From capturing those really high-level guys, a massive piece of the puzzle finally emerges, but it was completely obscured. Al-Qahtani revealed that back in July 2001, KSM had introduced him to the man who trained him. The catch? He only had an obscure name, Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti. That's just a pseudonym. It literally just means father of Ahmed from Kuwait. Before the investigators, it gave them a critical thread to pull in what was otherwise an ocean of dead ends. By this point, the CIA realized their main target was completely isolated. He wasn't using phones, no internet, nothing. He was only communicating through trusted intermediaries. So they completely shifted their strategy. Stop looking for the target and start hunting the couriers. This whole theory got validated in January 2004. Kurdish security forces captured a man named Hassan Gul, who was actually carrying a letter from bin Laden. Gul dropped a bombshell, stating clearly that Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti is the personal courier. Okay, so you'd think they've got their guy, right? Not quite. They immediately ran into a total wall of conflicting intelligence. On one side, you have Hassan Gul claiming Abu Ahmed is highly important. But on the other side, top-tier captives like KSM and Abu Faraj al-Libi, who was captured in May 2005, they're actively downplaying his role. They were telling interrogators that Abu Ahmed was just some retired member who didn't matter at all.
Now, it's really important to note the context of where this extreme confusion was coming from. These details were being extracted using extremely harsh interrogation techniques and physical torture. This environment inherently complicated the reliability of the information they were getting. It left the CIA dealing with conflicting profiles, an immense amount of noise in the data, and still, they only had a fake name to work with.
Cutting through all that noise required grueling, almost unimaginable patience. They discovered the pseudonym in 2004, but it took years of running into dead ends until 2007. And the big breakthrough for his actual identity didn't even come from the CIA's own network. A foreign intelligence agency finally revealed that Abu Ahmed's real name was Ibrahim Saeed Ahmed, a Pakistani man whose family had relocated to Kuwait. But even with a real name in hand, they had to wait another 3 long years before they intercepted his first phone call in 2010.
Once they were armed with that real name, investigators spent those 3 years meticulously monitoring vast amounts of communication. We are talking about tapping and monitoring literally millions of phone calls flowing from the Middle East, including Kuwait, directly into Pakistan. They were searching for a microscopic needle in a global haystack, just hoping, praying, that one single call would give them a geographic location.
And then, in June 2010, out of those millions and millions of monitored calls, one finally raised a red flag. The individuals on the line were speaking a mix of Arabic and Pashto. During the chat, the man located in Pakistan replied to a question with a very specific phrase. He said, "I am with the same people I used to be with." That was it. That was exactly what the CIA needed to hear. They had finally found their Courier.
But knowing who he was and actually finding his physical location were two completely different things. This Courier practiced intense operational security. He would turn his phone on for just brief minutes at a time before yanking the battery out. He strictly used his device only when he traveled into the crowded city of Peshawar. And he used constant evasion tactics to avoid being geolocated by anyone trying to track him. Despite all those crazy efforts, that brief intercepted call was the slip-up they needed. In August 2010, a local CIA ground operative actually physically spotted Abu Ahmed navigating the really busy streets of Peshawar. And what was he driving? A very specific white Suzuki Jeep. The contrast here is just staggering to think about. You have this massive, high-tech, billion-dollar global dragnet, and it finally comes down to a guy driving a white Jeep. Now they had eyes on him, and they could physically tail his movements. As the operatives tracked that white Suzuki Jeep for days, the trail didn't lead to some temporary freezing cave in the mountains like everyone has expected for years. Instead, it led straight to a surprisingly large, permanent, and heavily fortified compound in the city of Abbottabad.
And that's when the chilling deduction hit them. The Courier wasn't just visiting this massive compound. He never left to go meet anyone else. Suddenly, the CIA realized that the man they had spent 10 entire years hunting wasn't roughing it out in the wilderness at all. He was likely living right behind those very walls, right alongside his Courier. So, the target is locked. This sets the stage for an incredibly sensitive, highly complicated nighttime raid on May 1, 2011. At 11 p.m., 2 Black Hawk helicopters took off from Jalalabad, Afghanistan. Because this compound was uncomfortably close to the Pakistani military academy, and because absolutely zero advance notice was given to the Pakistani government, the mission required top-secret stealth technology to completely evade radar detection.
Think about this for a second. After all that, a painstaking decade-long intelligence manhunt, spanning multiple continents, sifting through millions of phone calls, and hitting countless dead ends, the actual boots-on-the-ground operation lasted exactly 38 minutes. The precision they executed with is astounding. The target was found and neutralized on the 3rd floor within the first 15 minutes of the raid. And that's even with a massive emergency where one of those stealth helicopters malfunctioned, crashed, and had to be completely destroyed on site. The team still successfully neutralized the target's guards and departed the compound. Within 24 hours, with permission from Saudi Arabia, a burial at sea was conducted in the Arabian Sea.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final thought. Just ponder the sheer scale of this operation for a moment. How did a sprawling 10-year global manhunt ultimately come down to the careful tracking of a single courier's phone call? It's wild. It just goes to show you how the absolute smallest pieces of data, when analyzed with relentless focus, can literally alter the course of history. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Catch you on the next one.